Welcome to BullTV, where we are bullish on Collierville. I'm your host, David Pickler. BullTV is a monthly show that empowers, educates, and entertains while highlighting the citizens of Collierville who inspire and deliver solutions for a stronger community. BullTV is presented by Pickler Companies and is proudly produced by the students of Collierville High School. We invite you to watch our show at www.bulltv.show, thebullnetwork.com, and CHS-TV 19. New episodes air on the second Sunday of every month at 3 p.m. Central Time. On today's show, we sit down with author and acclaimed speaker Jeremy Park, who served as CEO of City Current. Join us on this inspiring episode as we hear about Jeremy's journey from a budding marketing student to a Memphis-based media icon. In the show, we'll learn about Jeremy's passion for powering the good and how City Current, as well as current collection of initiatives, empowers our community each and every day. Today I'm joined by Jeremy Park. Jeremy Park is a corporate executive and philanthropist, an author of 2 books, a columnist, and a contributor to Forbes. He's producer and host of television, radio shows, and a podcast, and a sought-after speaker for transforming organizations and individuals into catalysts for their community. Jeremy is the CEO and catalyst behind City Current, an organization with a mission to power the good. The organization connects businesses with community and hosts more than 300 events each year for enrichment and community collaboration. Jeremy graduated in 1999 from the University of North Texas and was distinguished as the university's top marketing student. He was raised in Weatherford, Texas, spent 8 years in Los Angeles, California, and now lives with his wife Meredith and 2 boys, Cooper and Kaysen, in Germantown, Tennessee. Jeremy, thank you for joining us on BullTV. Glad to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, it's the student talking to the master here. You do this so much.
I do a lot of media and storytelling, but hey, it's nice to be in this seat for once, so I appreciate the opportunity for sure.
Well, we're glad to. And if you've ever watched any of our shows, you probably know that we always begin the same way with asking in 3 words, who is Jeremy Park?
Well, the easy thing would be to go off the mission of power the good, but I'm not going to do that. So I'll say purpose-driven, connector, creator.
Love it. Anything you want to add to that? I mean, you expand on that a little bit?
City builder, I think, is one that I would use. So for me, in my role, when you talk about philanthropy, media, events, connecting people, collaborating with a higher purpose to make a difference, that's really my world, is finding where there's synergy. So finding opportunities to connect people and projects and efforts to be able to make a difference. And then also, too, when you look at celebrating the nonprofits, the businesses, those who are out leading by example and doing good, it's all storytelling and creating content that ultimately uses the Mid-South as a lens, and that's my favorite part, is sharing the stories of the good that's going on here locally, but also using it as a lens so that anyone around the world can see what's going on, the lessons that we're learning, and how they can make an even greater difference wherever they are in their community as well.
Well, in a world that seems to focus so much on the negative, and maybe the things that's more spurious, that to find someone who's really focused on telling the story, telling the good, it's an amazing thing.
There's no shortage of negative news, obviously, when you look at social media, and social media does have some good qualities, but, unfortunately, negative news sells, and the media knows that, and so it's our theory that people do want good news, and we've proven that successful. When you look at the Spark and the Spark Awards, and a lot of these shows that are focused on positives, they've been very successful, and I think that shows you right there, people do want the positives. They're looking for it, they're encouraged by it, And I view it as our mission and our responsibility to be able to do that and double down, because we need more of it now than ever.
Love it. All right, you know, I've known you for several years, and you are one of the most amazing advocates for the city of Memphis. So this is a tough question for you. What is your favorite thing about the Blush City?
So I've watched most of your past episodes, and I know that everyone says the people, but it's true. And I mean, when you look at what keeps us here, what inspires us, what for me and my family and all that we do, it really is the people. But it's not just the people. It's the genuine authenticity, the caring. Mm-hmm. And I think we were talking before we hit record on this, but there is a deep-rooted sense of responsibility, of connection, of family. Mm-hmm. You have faith, you have values, you have a support network, and I just think that the community of caring ultimately is what makes Memphis special. I
think that's so right. You know, we really wanted to have you on the show for a long time, Jeremy, because I believe that your mission, you know, really of delivering solutions for a stronger community, aligns perfectly with what we believe here with BullTV. If you would, tell us a little bit about your journey, which I think it's just fascinating, as you move from a marketing major to a tennis professional to a musician, and now you're just a media icon.
So, appreciate that. I think for me, you know, you could look at that and say, wow, he's all over the charts. He has no clue what he's doing. But I'll make some sense of it. So I did, and you heard obviously the bio on the front end that you listed off in terms of marketing major, University of North Texas, growing up in Weatherford, Texas. But I did. So I was born in Wisconsin, lived there for 8 years, grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Weatherford is a suburb of Fort Worth. And to me, though, and my brother, who actually now lives here as well, and he came out of 20 years of serving in the Marines, we grew up in an open-door household. Mm-hmm. So my parents, all hours, day or night, 2 a.m., 2 p.m., didn't matter. If you were going through a bad or hard time, going through a divorce, a difficulty, loss of job, whatever it was, you would come to our house. And so we got to see, really at a young age, just the power of helping people, mm-hmm. and what that does to really impact the trajectory of their lives, but also your own life.
Right.
And there's a lot of really amazing stories, and one that I didn't put in the book, but I think it just kind of dawned on me recently is our tennis coach, for me and my brother growing up, was always over at our house afterwards. So we'd play tennis with him during the day, and then he would come over at night, and my dad would let him use our racket stringer. And he would just be stringing rackets, and we're sitting there watching TV with him and just hanging out, and he would eat dinner with us. Like, he became part of our family.
Sure.
But my dad and my mom noticed that he was going through a divorce. He was going through a rough time. And that was their way of saying, hey, we love you, we got you, be a part of our family. And those really hit you later where you're like, you know what? They didn't have to do that, mm-hmm. but they wanted to do that. And we were a better family because of that. And we're still like, he's like a brother to us. And you realize really fast that to make a difference, it's not rocket science. You just have to care. Right. And I think that really opened up my eyes at a young age to be involved in organizations like the Boy Scouts, and my brother's an Eagle Scout, and you know, my parents are still doing merit badge colleges for thousands of kids because they care. And so for me, even going to college, I was a marketing major, yes, but I was volunteering all the time, taking acting classes, doing music, wanted to be a singer-songwriter as well, so always had the dream of going to LA, but I was always pouring in, and so my acting coach one day said, hey, you're about to graduate, you're the first one in, you're the last one to leave, you're helping me sell out these shows with no-name actors. I bet you could do it with big names too. I'm going to do you a favor. And so she got me a job as the director of marketing for a production company, a TV production company in LA, and that got me out there. And you know, long story short on that, 2 years in, they took a big job in Florida, and so they moved, and I then was jobless because I wanted to stay in California. And I go back to tennis, grew up playing competitive, ended up being the head tennis pro at Beverly Hills Country Club, and that opened up a lot of opportunities for me and a lot of cool storylines. But all of that, then I meet this amazing young woman from the Mid-South area. Her family's all in Corinth, and we, 16 years ago, said, we're going to Memphis because we want to be close to her family, and we want to be able to pour in and make a difference, and that's why we chose Memphis.
Wow, that's a great story. And I loved when you talked about the genesis of it was about the sense of caring. The sense, really what I'm feeling is a sense of genuineness. That really, was very pervasive. And what an amazing experience to grow up with that kind of environment. That's fantastic.
It also shows you, and these are the things that we work on our end with City Current, is 3 truths, 3 laws, whatever you want to call them. But the first is that people physically solve problems. Mm-hmm. And money is an important resource, obviously, especially for nonprofits and schools to do things, like this. It does take money. But ultimately, when you talk about creating real change, a dollar bill, if I physically set it right here, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't parent a child, doesn't physically feed anybody, it doesn't mentor, it doesn't do anything. It just sits there. And so what you realize is that if we're going to talk about making a difference and we're going to actually do it, we have to raise our hand to be a part of the solution and physically go and serve and volunteer and be on these boards and do the things that are important, so physical service. The second truth, though, is that people provide opportunities for people. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at where are you going to, be able to elevate your career, how are you going to be able to meet people and show them that you can add value, that you can lead, that you can do all these things, it comes down to you being involved in the community to open up these opportunities to create these relationships, to then have these opportunities in life.
Right.
Personally, professionally, even spiritually. And then that's where that giving leads to growth. And that's that third piece, is the more you get involved, the more you give, the more you meet these amazing people, and that's what we're surrounded by, these amazing people here in the Mid-South, all of a sudden you have a chance to grow and do these amazing things that you would have never thought possible before, but it's because you took the time to care, to invest in your community, to open up these opportunities to build these relationships that lead you on this whole new trajectory.
Goodness. Now, I know you're a busy guy. And in fact, what I understand is you've already hosted 5 interviews for radio and television already today. So tell me a little bit about how you're able to navigate all these different priorities, all these different responsibilities that you have, and really allow you to navigate those priorities and be the most effective you can in what you want to do.
Being an extrovert does help so that when you are around people, you draw energy, because when I go home, I crash and burn. Yes, so every day I've probably got, on average, 2 to 3, sometimes 5. I've done as many as 13 interviews in one day. So all of those are focused on good news stories, telling the stories of individuals and organizations doing good. That right there, though, inspires me, because when you look at even today, I'm interviewing an organization that goes into the prisons and helps educate those who are incarcerated and change their lives, the power of a college education basically going in. Another, working with foster children. And it's like when you start seeing the good that's going on, you get inspired. So that part moves me and inspires me for sure. And that, yes, it's a lot of work in terms of editing the shows for audio, for the radio, and then, the video for TV. So we're in the weeds on this. And then you look at all the events and all the stuff we do. But when you have a chance to see the impact that you're having, it's, yes, it's cliche and it's true. When you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. But mine definitely is a 24/7 cycle. I'm burning the candle at all ends for sure. But I love it. And I love being able to feel like I'm making a difference. And, when you have family in the military, first responders, 1, thank you for your service. 2, you realize life is short. And I am determined to take advantage of every single second I have on this earth to do something good. And that way, when I'm gone, I can at least rest knowing that I gave it my all.
That's fantastic. It seems to me when you're doing these interviews, not only are you're shining a light on these amazing examples, but you're also inspiring people to want to pursue these opportunities and just, and the power of what doing good can mean. And so I'm intrigued. Where do you identify? How do you find out about these good stories that you then tell?
So I've been doing this now for a long time. The beauty of that is people will find you. You start building a reputation in terms of a couple things. One is, I think this is true with public speaking, it's true with anything, it's true with events. People a lot of times focus on the content, which is important, but it's also ultimately how do you make them feel? How do you make the audience feel? Are you putting out the energy to get them inspired. And so for me, I'm very focused on trying to make sure that the guest feels welcome, that you're putting out good energy for them that then they feed off of, and so you end up with a really dynamic interview.
Sure.
And on my end, I don't like to overly prepare. You always hear Larry King, would say he doesn't want to, know too much about the guest because he wants it to be an organic conversation. And I think that's part of the mystique for me, and the fun of it is I'm genuinely curious. Like, I want to know. And I want to know how they're making it easy and how people can actively get involved. Because I do think that, going back to your point, I feel like people want to make a difference. They just don't know how, or they think it's too difficult. And what I've found is that you can make it really easy by just saying, hey, next time you're at the grocery store, pick up some extra items. There's organizations that will pick them up from your house. You can deliver them to the food bank. You can do a corporate drive. Next time you're at the toy store or Target, pick up a teddy bear. Memphis Child Advocacy Center, that's where the kids go, and they pick out the teddy bear right on the wall. Next time you're watching a football watch party, invite your friends and family over. You're going to provide food and drink, whatever you normally, have them pay for dinner. Say, hey, all that's going to go in this charitable coin bank. You can raise, I had a friend do that over the NFL season a few years ago, $15,000 just by having people over to his house and saying, hey, whatever you normally put down for dinner or lunch, put that in this bucket and we're going to give it to a nonprofit. And halfway through the season, the magic of that is people were so inspired by what he was doing and the nonprofit he was supporting, they started hosting their own charitable watch parties at their house and gave him the money. And it just, once again, it showed it doesn't have to be difficult. You just have to be purpose-driven.
I love it. Jeremy Park is the easy button for doing good.
I try to be, but I also try to then say, hey, everyone can do this. Go be a spark in your own direction, because we need more of that. We need more positive energy. We need more upstanders. We need more people involved, and everyone can play a role. And I think that's, to me, the beauty of this at all ages. When you start seeing little kids, at a young age, start making choices that will not help themselves but help someone else, to me, that's awesome.
Wow. Well, you know what, this may be a very difficult question for you, but what inspires you the most in life? What gets you out of bed every morning?
I look at the good that we're doing, and to me, I think it's a mission, it's a responsibility, but I look at others, someone like Manny Ahome from Samaritan's Feet, and that's an organization we work with, and we have an opportunity to wash hundreds of kids' feet every year, give them new socks and shoes. We did about 300 kids at Las Americas here locally. We did about 400 kids at Nashville Intercity Ministry. And it's awesome to go in there and wash kids' feet, give them new socks and shoes, toothbrushes, toothpaste, snacks, books. You see them light up, and there's so many special moments from those. But I look at what he's doing globally, 10 million people. And I'm thinking, wow, we've got so much more we can do. I want to keep up with people like that. And so there's people locally, there's people all over the world who inspire me. And I love the fact that there are so many people doing good. And we have a chance to see that, but then also ourselves be inspired by that, to say that whatever we're doing while it's good, we have a long way to go still.
I understand. Wow. In our community, you are probably most known for the work that you do with City Current, which, as we know, began as a very humble pancake breakfast, but obviously it's found incredible success. Tell us about the inception of the organization and really how it powers the good.
Started in 2005. It was part of a franchise. Lipscomb & Pitts Insurance was the title sponsor. We moved here in, I think, 2007-ish, and at the time, Johnny Pitts of Lipscomb & Pitts, who's really an amazing mentor of mine, too. I give him so much credit in terms of helping me in my career, but at a young age, as we're moving here and getting settled in, I started volunteering, not knowing anybody here, and doing business plans, and so he's in the process of buying out the local rights for the Lipscomb Pitts Breakfast Club. And he needed a business plan. He's like, hey, I need a plan. And him being heavily involved in the Scouts and an Eagle Scout, he wanted to make a difference. And at the time, handful of businesses involved, bring in national guest speaker. That's where it got the Breakfast Club name. And so there wasn't much more to it than that. A little bit like a BNI, an internal networking group. So not external focus, no philanthropic purpose, nothing along those lines. And so when I stepped in and started looking at where he wanted to go and what I thought we could bring to the table that would be different, and looking at the gaps, positive news, purpose-driven, CSR, before CSR was even a phrase, of using corporate resources to make a difference and help lift nonprofits. How can we break down the silos in the community between government, education, faith, business, community, nonprofits, all these sides that need to sit at the same table but weren't necessarily sitting at the same table? How could we use those as galvanizing forces? So we kind of laid out, all of this, and I came back with the plan. And he's like, wow, that's really thick. I don't have time to run that. So how about I hire you to run it? And the catch on that was like, oh, wait, but my own agency thinks I'm a little crazy for doing this. There's really nothing there yet, so I don't really have any money. Can we be creative? Our director of communications, her husband was graduating seminary school, so they were moving to Chattanooga. So he's like, can I hire you for the agency to run marketing, and then on the side, see where you take this breakfast club? My wife thought I was a little crazy. She's like, so you're getting 2 full-time jobs and you're only getting paid for 1? Yes, sign me up. But
quite the negotiator you are, Jimmy.
Exactly, yes. But it was a rare opportunity where you were in control of your own destiny, and I felt like I could use this as a real powerful opportunity to make a difference. And knowing Johnny, he and I were on the same page right from the get-go. So over the last 15 years now, transforming it from this internal focused, breakfast to now being this external force for good, mission to power the good through events, media, philanthropy, and as you mentioned, we'll do about 150 to 180 events just here in Memphis alone, over 300 between Memphis and Nashville. We expanded to Nashville 4 or 5 years ago, rebranded it to City Current, which means the electric current powering good in our community, the current impact of our media, philanthropy, and events, and there's a geographical tie to the mighty Mississippi River, so the current of the Mississippi River. But, taking these businesses, over 100 of them, and using those collective resources, those force and funds to be able to be a catalyst and really lift the community. And so that's, to me, been the amazing evolution over the last 15 years is to go external focused, make a difference, use all these resources to be able to really lift our community.
Love it, love it. I love the tie-in of the current and how that fits into power and the power to good, and really powering that. That's fantastic. Let's talk about Growth Current. And I know it's one of the initiatives of City Current, and my understanding is this offers courses from industry leaders who will mentor others in life and career. Talk a little bit about this program. I understand it's a subscription-based program. It's a tool, and how it really benefits business and community leaders.
So the City Current DNA is you have businesses who come together, put the money in, that's our budget for the year, and it's a zero-sum game. We do all the good. So it's all corporate-driven. And when the pandemic hit, we were looking at, okay, just like every other organization, especially nonprofits, right out of the gates, thankfully our partners were like, so good news and bad news. The good news is we want to remain committed. The bad news is we don't have the same level of funding, and so we need to lower our threshold a little bit. And so thankfully they stuck with us, and we were able to manage through, but we had made all these commitments to nonprofits before the pandemic, and we were going to fight to be able to honor those financial commitments.
Sure.
But we saw the writing on the wall. And so we're like, well, what can we take that we're good at and be able to leverage that to do things a little different? And what was interesting, too, is on Instagram, I started getting all of these direct messages from people around the world saying, hey, I'm struggling. I see you putting out all this helpful content, and I need some ideas on what I can do for a job, on how I can be inspired. How can I do X, Y, Z? And so we said, well, how can we start to go individual-based globally to help all these individuals? And so that's Growth Current. It's an e-learning platform, professional and personal development. We have all these different experts and past guest speakers, and so it's virtual events, it's learning modules, it's everything digital you can imagine. And it's a beautiful cross-section of everything from public speaking to yoga to preparing for interviews. So we try to have something for everyone that you can learn at your own pace and watch on demand. And we're continually putting out virtual content. And that's the beauty of it, is wherever you are in the world, you can tune in. It's also an opportunity for businesses who do want to offer professional and personal development to their team to do a subscription in a bulk level to make it really easy. And so it's an opportunity for us to meet people individually where they are, to help them grow, but ultimately to use those resources to help us power the good.
Love it, love it. You know, when we think about this, that building partnerships is not only a large part of your City Current's business plan, but it's also an invaluable tool for anybody, entrepreneur and business owner. So tell me a little bit about how you would effectively build partnerships and why it's so impactful for you in terms of you doing that.
We are all in the trust business, no matter what you do, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in wealth management, financial services, insurance, whatever it is, you are in the trust business. And to me, when I look at where do you build trust, it is 100% in community engagement. And I tell people all the time, you don't have to volunteer, but when people see you out doing the right thing, they start looking at. So I volunteer coach the middle school tennis teams, and you know I'm always out there trying to do whatever I can. And the parents all say, you know, you don't have to be out here, but the fact that you are and you're doing it for all the right reasons, like, I want to get to know you. I see your heart. I want to get to know you. What do you do? Well, tell me more. And so it's a powerful way to do it for the right reasons, but ultimately to build a level of trust and relationship that really does take business to a whole new level. And you know, you do business obviously with a business and a brand, but ultimately it's the people behind that brand. And so I just think that for us, when you talk about the events, bringing people together with a higher purpose and realizing that this isn't I'm not a big fan of the networking, you know, term, but it's purpose-driven relationship building and coming in to connect for a higher reason and giving people a reason to say, hey, look, here's what I'm passionate about. Here are the resources that I have available. How can we match this up with what you're passionate about, what you see as gaps? How can we come together to solve these challenges and really strategically make a difference? So it's a lot to me around strategy. And when you start bringing people together and they start connecting and realizing, wait a second, I can help you. And oh, by the way, we're deepening our relationship that it may not happen today or tomorrow, but maybe a year down the road. This is the planter philosophy, the farmer philosophy, right? You're always planting seeds of good fortune, right? You don't know when they're going to blossom and bloom, but ultimately when they do, it's like a tidal wave, and all this good energy comes in your direction. You're like, wow, where did all that come from? It's because you've been planting all these seeds for decades that are just now really coming, you know, in big form. And so that to me is why the community service and the heart for what we do is so important. Is the media gets people out, it shines a light on the good that's going on, right? People love to have that spotlight and to see the good. At the same time, you have the events to bring people together, to inspire them, to engage them. And then you have this service component, the philanthropic component around service that physically connects people, but also mentally and spiritually connects them too, that you just don't find anywhere else. And that's the part I love.
You know, the thing that you pointed out, and I think is so important, and I tell this to, you know, young people who come into my business, is when you talk about doing the right thing, but then you take it to the next level, doing the right thing for the right reason. And because you don't want to join an organization just to, as you say, network, you know, what it may do for your career. That's the wrong approach, because as you say, people can see your heart. And I think that you do have to have a heart for service and a heart for wanting to give back. And as we say, giving back and paying forward, passion and purpose. And so I love the mindset, because when you're really helping people understand that we do these things not because they're going to help our business, but the reality is we're doing these things because they're important to us. And as a result of that, then people who see what you're doing are naturally connected and attracted to that.
It has to be authentic. We live in a world, you know, especially with social media, if you're faking it, you're not going to be able to fake it for very long.
No.
But I also think, you know, when you talk about like the Forbes stuff, I'm really big on philanthropic trends, like what's going on, especially around CSR and corporate social responsibility. And when you look at the number one trend for corporate social responsibility is that social impact is now mandatory. And that's being driven by consumers. 85% of millennials, and that number continues to go up,
Sure.
are making their purchasing decisions based on the social impact efforts of companies. The tie, St. Jude, the clothes stand benefits Boys and Girls Clubs. So literally you can find something that's going to give back on every business. Mm-hmm. And so also employees are choosing where they go to work based on the social good efforts. They want to go to work for a company that has a higher purpose. They want to feel like that what they do matters and is making a difference. And they also want the volunteer opportunities, not on the weekends, they want them during the work hours. And I think that's where, for corporate leaders especially, you have to realize it is in your best interest, and it's also a huge part of your sustainability to be involved in the community and to make it easy for your team to be engaged.
Could not agree more. We talk an awful lot about the fact that people don't do business with you because of who you are, or even for that matter, what you do. But they do business with you because of why you are, your why, that purpose. And leading that purpose-driven life, having that purpose-driven business, then that makes all the difference in the world, at least in our perspective.
I agree 100%. And for us, we challenge businesses to put their philanthropic statement up front on their website, to have one, to think about it, to craft one. What are you fighting for? What's your why? I also encourage that for individuals and for families. It is a powerful opportunity to go through a kind of a thing, a case study, if you will, with your family. But when you start asking others, what do you stand for? What's your purpose? It opens up some really great conversations. And that's actually like, if you're going to the next event, instead of asking, what do you do? Ask somebody, what are you fighting for? What's your purpose? You get some amazing answers.
What's your passion?
I'm overcoming cancer. Right. I'm fighting, like all of these things that you talk about going, from surface level to deep and getting to know somebody pretty fast, but in an authentic way. That's it. But if you haven't thought about that answer, then you're like, what? So that's where I think for you, your kids, and then you start asking around your office and others, what's your purpose? When you know your purpose, you then can really make a difference in a magnified way, because once you write down your purpose, then it's like, okay, now I know what I'm fighting for. Now let me start looking at my calendar. Where can I carve out the time and be intentional and put that in, whether that's once a week, once a month, once a year, whatever it is. Then I can figure out the nonprofits that kind of align with that purpose. And then I can start making a real difference. And I'm a big believer in get involved with one big and one small nonprofit. Big one, you learn a lot. You learn the dynamics. You meet a lot of amazing people. If I say I volunteer with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, everyone knows what that is. They have an understanding. But the small one is where you create your legacy. It's where you create your resume. It's your chance to show that you are a leader, because you can plug in and do all these things, and they need a lot of help, but you have a chance to be a change maker. And so I think that goes back to, once you know your purpose, man, you really can create powerful impact.
For all the things you've done, and you've done so much, what would you say is the proudest moment of your life?
Getting married and having our kids. When you look at, really, Meredith, I don't give her enough credit for all that she does to allow me to do all of this. And she has changed my life in so many amazing ways. So obviously, being married to her, having the family, it's hard to say, because you look back and there's been so many special moments between tennis, acting, music, being able to stand on stage in front of thousands of people with them singing your songs that you wrote, and hearing what that meant to someone, that it helped them through a challenging time. So many special memories with each one of those chapters of my life. Even recently, our middle school team that I've been volunteer coaching for the last 3 years just won state. That's a really special memory that I get to share with our son Kason and the kids, and to hang the sign up on the tennis courts. And there's so many small, special moments and memories, but I just think for me, it goes back to family 100%. When I look at my parents and what they've done, and me just trying to be an inkling of what my family has poured into others, that's a piece of this. When I look at the sacrifice my brother has made, my gosh, like he's a hero. And just hearing the stories of what he's gone through at war and seeing that I can't even comprehend. And then you look at, my wife and how she humbly just does everything for our family and allows us to do all this good. I can't do any of this without her and the kids, 100%.
That's what it's all about. Apart from being, as I called you earlier, a media icon, you're also an entrepreneur. You're a shareholder and you're an investor. Talk a little bit about, if you would, about your passion that you have for investing in Memphis-based startups.
Sure. You got to put your money where your mouth is, right? So I look at Sweet Bio, and there's amazing organizations that these entrepreneurs are doing something special for Memphis, but ultimately to change the world. And they need help. And so I try to step in on my end, and Meredith does too. And, we figure out how can we help them with connections, and then ultimately, obviously, put money in. And I just think, like anything, when you put skin in the game, when you put the financial piece in, and a lot of times people think, oh, well, you've got to be this big philanthropist and you've got to be this big, very wealthy individual. No, even a little bit shows them as entrepreneurs that you care, that you're behind them, and that you're invested in. And so we're not talking, huge numbers here, but the reality is we make the commitment and the financial commitment to invest, because I think it's important for Memphis, and I think it's important for the next generation of entrepreneurs to know that we as a community care and will get behind them. And that is something that I think more in the Mid-South need to be doing, is saying, hey, we believe in you, we're going to help you, but ultimately we're going to invest in you, because that carries the ripple effect to then attract other entrepreneurs. And when you look at job growth and all these economic development opportunities, it comes from us as Memphians, as people who care, Collierville, Germantown, wherever it is, you got to invest in your community.
We as a community need to be an incubator for some of those amazing ideas and for that passion. It's the next generation. Got to do it. Jeremy, you serve on many non-for-profit boards and school boards. You're involved with Slingshot Memphis, the University of Memphis LEAD program, New Leaders, and I understand you currently serve as the Memphis board chair of that. Talk to us, if you would, about the importance of community engagement, especially about why the next generation of our young leaders should pursue this type of civic service.
It's been the central theme of the whole conversation, right? Is you have to put your money where your mouth is. You have to physically serve. And I mean, I can't say that and not do that, right? I mean, it's got to be authentic. But my bigger challenge, honestly, is saying no, like learning to say no.
My wife tells me.
Right. That's a whole art form in and of itself. So, no, let's go back to the purpose-driven conversation, right? So for our family, education is a really major thread. And when you look at what we're fighting for, it's education. And so when you look at the boards that I'm on, University of Memphis LEAD, Leadership Program, the Complete Professional Program, helping college students, you look at even Slingshot Memphis, what they're doing is to me, I view that as the future of philanthropy, looking at, for nonprofits, what's actually working. And many times we get caught in the numbers, but how are you actually making an impact? And so that way we can start really refining and accelerating that impact to create some real change. But that's around education. It's around helping nonprofits to be more educated on what's actually working, what's impactful, and how can we accelerate that. And then you look at New Leaders, amazing organization that trains teachers and principals and education leaders to go through this transformational process to lead these schools, which are the underperforming, but then turning them into the best performing, the top performing. And when you look at the echelon of leadership with Memphis Shelby County Schools, so many of them are New Leader alum. And it's a powerful program that is creating generational change for our students. And so that's why with Barbara Hyde and Rob Carter and amazing individuals who serve on that board, I said, hey, I want to be a part of this and I want to help lead the effort. And so being the board chair, but that goes back to that conversation around what's important for me, what's important for our family in terms of our legacy, that's education, and then me being intentional about carving out the time to be involved physically with those organizations in a leadership role that I can help magnify their efforts.
Well, I want to first of all thank you for your work with that program. You know, as you may know, I spent a lot of years in public education service, and we learned a long time ago that the single most important person in any school building is the principal. They set the climate, they establish the culture, they establish the standards. You know, they really drive performance, and they can create phenomenal results, or they can destroy things. And so you've got to have that focus of bringing great people in, but giving them the tools necessary. So thank you for that work. That is so incredibly important for the future generations of children.